Good afternoon, everybody. I would just like to, I've already asked you if I can actually do the recording, which will then make later available to everyone else. My name is Nhlanhla Mbata. I'm in the ISER at Rhodes University. Today's discussion is by Dr. Faten Attig-Bahar. Yesterday we had a discussion about Attig or Attig. So I'm pronouncing it correctly, I hope. Attig-Bahar. Dr. Faten highlights some of the work of Future Earth's global sustainability research in contributing to sustainability science and innovation during this geological age, which is called Anthropocene. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This age is characterized by human activity that is influencing climate and the environment, either positively or negatively. And I would also like to remind everyone that Rhodes University and the University of Pretoria are the current co-hosts of the Science Leadership Center of the Future Earth Africa Hub. Faten and friends highlight the usefulness and power of interdisciplinary collaborations in shaping policies, fostering innovations, and driving sustainable transformations. One of the things that they argue is that this approach is important for defining pathways towards a more just and more sustainable future. We've shared the summary of this study with you, and I'll leave some of that summary to her presentation. But before we start, some of the rules that I'd just like to share with you so that you know where we are in this discussion. Her presentation will take about 25 to about 30 minutes. And then that would be followed by Dr. Blessing in responding to her presentation. After the response from Dr. Blessing, we will then have a discussion time with questions and comments from everyone. But don't forget that throughout the presentations of both the main speaker and the respondent, you can also write down your questions and comments in the chat box. But we would still encourage you to unmute and speak if it's possible for you to open your video, and you can speak from wherever you are, for those who are joining us online. Dr. Faten Attig-Bahar is Deputy Director of the Future Earth Africa Center at Rhodes. For some reason, I'm echoing. Can I ask that maybe you mute one of the computers there in the seminar room? Okay, I think that's fine now. So as I was saying, Dr. Faten is Deputy Director of the Future Earth Africa Hub Leadership Center at Rhodes, which is hosted at Rhodes as well as at the University of Pretoria. She is also our visiting research fellow at Rhodes ICR, and she's presenting in that capacity today. She holds a PhD in energy engineering. She's also an Alexandra van Humboldt alumna with research spanning climate, energy systems, and sustainability transitions. She's held academic and research roles in Tunisia, Germany, and now in South Africa, and also serves on the global scenes in bodies including the WMO, Future Earth, Africa Links, and GEO. She also co-chaired from 2023 to 2025 the SRI Africa Satellite event, which is advancing African leadership in sustainability science and science diplomacy. She's a very big advocate of early career researchers. In any case, her work combines both technical expertise and strategic governance. By the way, beyond the science, Faten is an award-winning author in Tunisia of about 20 Arabic children's books. So a very welcome to Dr. Faten. I'll present to you Dr. Blessing after Dr. Faten's presentation. Dr. Faten, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to me to be here today and to join you for this nice discussions, because I have been following this series of seminars, and I'm very impressed by the way that you are taking it to see the different papers and having this kind of discussions and so on. So today I'm happy to share with you some of the work that we do have at the level of Future Earth Global, and this is our way on how to support the knowledge generation and also the work of the global research networks and the science within the global Future Earth. And this is one of the showcase that we had. It's a special issue on sustainability. It was supported and driven by sustainability community within Future Earth, and it's entitled Charting the Course of the Next Decade. So today, this is a new type of papers. Maybe in the past you had like maybe more scientific and dedicated papers for some specific topic, but this one is kind of editorial piece. It talks to different aspects that we received as the editorial board from the papers, and also some of the highlights from all of them, and some of the key lessons that we took from those papers, because it serves a lot in how do we position ourselves and how do we deal with the science community and also support us in defining our agenda. Can I get the next slide, please?
Sorry, before the next slide, Dr. Faten, sorry, before the next slide, can I just ask the audience, if you want to have a view of the room, you can just go and pin for yourself Blessing Chakura. Blessing Chakura, if you can pin it online, then you can have a view of the room if you are interested in that. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Faten. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mbata. So I want to put you in the context on this editorial piece and also tell you about the origin and the scope on why did we had this idea of support and the special issues for the community, sustainability community. So this was initiated by Future Earth as part of its global mission to support and advance sustainability science globally. So the discussions on Heaven that was started in 2022, and we published the Global Sustainability. It was published in the Journal of Global Sustainability, which is a Cambridge University Press. So we did it in October 2024. It was like almost a year from now. I was part of the guest editor for the special issue, together with colleagues representing the Global Research Network within Future Earth, and supported also by the Global Secretariat of Future Earth. So we're 5 representing the different parts and regions active within this field with Future Earth. So we received over 50 submissions from researchers worldwide, but we ended up with the review panel that we had with us, having 12 accepted papers for the special issue titled Charting the Course of the Next Decade for Sustainability, Research and Innovation. So that was an open call, but also we encouraged our entities and global research networks and the groups and the national regional committees also to submit papers and support papers for that. So the thematic were on the state of art of sustainability science, the transdisciplinary method, science policy interface, the cultural historical development tensions, and how those societal dynamics are affecting sustainability science, and what are the challenges and opportunities to sustainability, the multi-actor processes and collaboration, because now we are in the era where collaboration and partnership are very important in shaping the future and also getting solutions. The transformative knowledge for just resilient future. So resilience is also coming a very important aspect, mainly for vulnerable communities, and also having those insights from societal transformation, fair and stable, resilient Earth systems. Can I go to the next one? So here, I would like to say a few words about Future Earth because I'm not sure if all people in the room and also online know about the community and the work of Future Earth and how this community is distributed around the world. So Future Earth is a global initiative focusing on advancing sustainability science, and this explains why we advocate to support solutions for sustainability and showcase there and including the special issue that I'm presenting today. The Future Earth vision is for providing a sustainable and equitable world for everyone. And the mission is to advance research to support transformation to global sustainability. So Future Earth is a big community. It is worldwide distributed. So we do have 9 global secretariats around the world. So they are in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in America. As you see on the map there, we do host one in Africa, and this is hosted by South Africa, and it's hosted by the NRF, supported by the Leadership Center, and Prof. Mbata just mentioned about the Land Investment Cluster, which is one of the science clusters that are supporting the scientific work of the Leadership Center. There are 19 national and local committees with all this diversity to sustainability inputs and so on, and the 27 global research networks. So can I have the next slide, please? So when we had the idea of supporting, this special issue was to look into the different areas that the global research networks are supporting and also are producing and co-producing. And there were different aspects and different thematic areas that link to advance sustainability science. So that's why there were a lot of interest coming from the community first, on having this opportunity to showcase and also to shape the narrative, because one of the Future Earth main goals is to shape the narratives, so there were a lot of interest coming from the community, and you see this community is dealing with different topics and aspects for sustainability, from water, oceans, climate, health, governance, society, land, biodiversity. And this also why it was interesting to receive from them, their insights on how they see the sustainability science, how they can map the current knowledge for diverse sustainability fields, how can they share on the transdisciplinary methods and science, how they deal with the science policy interface in their context, how is the cultural aspect and the regional aspect is included in other work as cross-cutting coming from the different aspects, mainly when we talk about the sustainability science and sustainability solutions. The collaborations and the partnership, as you see here, it's a global community. It's also very much interconnected. So how these partnerships can support in succeeding the mission of sustainability science. And also when we talk about transformatives, how can we learn lessons, from the current activities and the current work coming from the global research network. Even though those global research networks are big projects, they do have their own international offices with networks, and with communities around that. Can I go to the next slide, please? So here is about this editorial piece. So the purpose was to see and to look into the different submissions after the review work, and to see in the accepted papers what are the insights that we can take from all the submissions, to identify also the strategic gaps and opportunities, and also to see how this kind of insights and how this kind of input coming from the community can help setting up the future research agenda, mainly because Future Earth is one of the main goals is to drive sustainability science, and also is to support the narratives around that, and also is to feed into other programs, with the narratives coming from the research and from the science, with that aspect, mainly because it is kind of a convening platform of convener, And why this kind of activity was very important, because that was the first special issue that we did, but also we had we had the plan to also to support more in the future, because this helps to provide strategic framing. It highlights the emergent patterns, mainly because we want to hear, from the science community, from the regions, um, from the local activities and what is going on there, and also to encourage this kind of collective vision, so we don't have like groups and science, because science, we cannot work on science in silence. We need to have this collaborative aspect. We need to have this collaborative insights and reflections, mainly when we talk about solving these issues related to sustainability, and also how do we position sustainability science. Can I go to the next one, please? So here, just to give you a few details on how do we craft that editorial piece. So after receiving the papers, mapping the disciplines and the geography methodology, so there were 12 accepted. And then with those 12, we needed to see into the themes, the innovation across all the submissions. I would like to mention that the submission welcome to the special issue were review papers, critical review papers, sorry, intelligent briefs, commentaries, and all this kind of interesting submissions. We engaged in a critical reflection, so we didn't only summarize the content of the 12 papers, but also we tried to see how do they support the direction of sustainability science, how also they interact, with the mission of Future Earth, how also it translates some of the aspects that we see at the level of the work, that it is happening now from different scale and from different aspects. So also we try to have this because the editorial team was diverse. So even for the editorial team, we try to have the different voices and the different perspective coming from the different groups of Future Earth, and also from the different region. So also it was an opportunity to fit in this diversity into, the reflections coming from those accepted documents. Can I go to the next one, please? So as emerging topics, that we could get from those accepted papers, therefore, main, I would say, big directions that were shown in all the submissions. First, the transforming knowledge system, how sustainability knowledge is produced and shared, promote transdisciplinary and inclusive research approaches, embrace reflectivity and system thinking, and also how to challenge the traditional academic norms, and silos. How do we bring it to a different level? Two, it was governance and legal innovation. So how to align legal framework with the planetary boundaries and Earth system science. And this was a very, very important discussion. How to develop adaptive and inclusive governance strategy for sustainability transition, mainly because we see it at different level in different places and with different actors. How do we strengthen coordination across scales and sectors? So that was also something very important to highlight. And for the regional and cultural perspective, so there were integrated local and indigenous knowledge into global sustainability discourse. How can we take that? Some of the paper highlighted specific challenges and priorities. So there were some showcases, we received them from African continent and also from the small island states, and how to promote culturally and context sensitive solutions, because this also are solutions that can feed to the global, solution to the sustainability science. So how can we also use this bottom-up approach, in driving the solution for that? The pathways for innovation for transformation. This is also another theme, and here we are about how do we map the strategic pathways for societal change, how do we foster innovation aligned with long-term sustainability goals. Mainly now we are in an era where where we see those digital development, all this, change on directions, and all this. They need to support some of those challenges and discourse. How do we frame a global agenda in the next decade? And I would like to stop here and highlight, because currently Future Earth is moving to the next phase, because every 5 to 10 years, every 5 years, so Future Earth try to look into the current agenda and try to adjust and also present and support this agenda to the work of the affiliated entities. And I feel this is a very important question and very important aspect, rising first, for the sustainability science community, but also at the level of Future Earth. We as Future Earth beyond 2025, how do we frame our research agenda? What are the priorities? Where should we put more folks? How do we support, the sustainability science community around that? Can I go to the next one, please? So, and also in terms of the reach, and of the so most of the address the planetary scale sustainability challenges, such as governance, law, innovation, knowledge system, etc. And in terms of the institution that co-authored those papers, so we saw the diversity coming from the different parts of the world. So we saw the global north, and we saw also global south contributions. There were also some regional focus papers, as just mentioned. So there were papers coming from Southern African and also from the small island developing state, and those also present unique perspective coming from those vulnerable communities. First, for example, for the paper come from the Southern Africa is to deal with the sustainability priorities, local and the use and the importance of local knowledge system. For the small island, it is a resilient strategy for those island nations. There are also the culture and the diversity. So the indigenous, I just mentioned, indigenous local cultural aspect was also there. And also the transdisciplinary network and the collaborative work. So contributions came from, most of the contribution came from research affiliated with Future Earth Hubs, global research networks, affiliated networks. And that was also something very important, because it brings the different perspective coming from the different entities, which is distributed around the world, and bringing different ideas, from there. Can I go to the next one, please? Yeah, I just mentioned that for those 12 accepted papers, there were like 3 in the open code. There were like 3 formats accepted for this. First, it was reviews or critical reviews, the intelligent briefing, also the commentaries. So here I was just trying to show you from each of the papers what are the methods and methodology used, in bringing in those insights that we are talking about now. So in global, there were like the mixed method, of research: quantitative, qualitative, scenario analyzing, policy analyzing, institutional mapping, reflective and narrative sensitive. So you see here for the 12, for example, the conceptual analysis, it appears in more than one paper. For example, the regional case study also, it appears in more than one paper. The policy aspect also, it appears in more than one paper. The framework development as well. Can I go to the next one, please? And here we wanted to see from all the emergent thematic area that just mentioned, the evolutionary and ecological process, governance and policy, land use and climate change, inter and transdisciplinary research. Those are the emergent topics that we got from the different papers. If you put them like in a categories. So how did they respond, to the themes of the special issue? So most of them, they presented state of the art of the sustainability science. So we saw that in almost 8 out of 12. We saw also another 7 out of 12 that were talking and dealing with inter and transdisciplinary methods and science policy interface. There were 4 out of 12, out of 12 presented diverse context and sustainability. There are also many papers, 5 out of 12, presented a multi-actor process and why they succeed or fail. There are also many, 7 out of 12, deals with knowledge integration for sustainability transformation. So all the paper deals with more than one or two aspects of that. If you see, if you see this figure, and this is, and I got it from the paper itself, from that editorial piece itself. And this is something very important because when the idea came to have the special issue and those thematic area were defined based on some consultation, some discussion with the community, some contribution from the global research networks, and so. But it was also very interesting to see those emergent thematic area, and those emergent themes, and because they will help in articulating, the next direction, and for the next direction, when we see like there is a need to focus on those ecological process, on those governance and policy, on the land use and climate change, on the and transdisciplinary research, because those came from the paper, those came from what the authors wanted to present in those 12 accepted papers. Can I go to the next one? So I think this is my last slide, and this is about the key lessons and the ways forward from this great experience of this special issue that it was collaborative work, and also it helped to see input from the community, and also what the science community within Future Earth is looking for. So it is very important to work across disciplines. So this was highlighted in all of the work presented to us. So it's very important to solve sustainability problems and bring together natural social scientists, listen to people outside of academia too. Maybe, for example, talk about this local knowledge and so on. The governance also must evolve. So policy must be flexible, fair, and also ready to support a healthy planet and more equal societies. The local context matter, so it's very important also to articulate our solutions, in a way that respect local culture, history, the vulnerable communities, what they bring to the table as well. Also, it's very important to think in a system, so sustainability is complex. So, and even sometimes when we try to find, to define sustainability and what are the action area for sustainability, sometimes, we receive a lot of response coming from, different perspective, because each can see it from from his or her angle, so so that's why we need to understand how things connect, change, and affect each other over time, and how to deal with that. Innovation should serve a purpose, because now we are in an era of this digital this technology, and we hear a lot, for example, about, for example, now it just came from 2 meetings where all the discussion was just focusing and concentrated on how do we adapt the artificial intelligence, in all the societal problems and sustainability. And I think this is something that's very important that can come across all the work and the activity that we do have within the community. And yeah, and definitely research and science must lead the action, so we need to have this meaningful, solution to support those meaningful change. I think with this, I came to the end of my presentation. I know that I took only 24 minutes, 10 seconds. Prof. Mbata, back to you. I will not do this.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faten. I think, yes, definitely that was time used efficiently. And, you know, as I was listening to you, in many ways, I'm thinking that these types of discussions, including this one, are quite philosophical in nature. For me, at the basic of everything is the question you probably, as a group, are trying to address with all the submissions that you received. What is science, and what should science be doing? And that, for me, is very philosophical, you know? And the various, for example, one of the lessons you end up with there is about the fact that science should bring solutions, you know, to real life problems. You know, I know other science that probably is not exactly designed to do that. For example, in the arts, you know, science, you know, in humanities, in any case, social science could be just moral, you know, or uplifting people's appreciation of the world. You know, there are all those philosophical questions on what is almost like the same questions that economists face about what really is the value of life. So I think as we go into the discussions, we can start thinking about questions like that ourselves. Maybe ask you to reflect on what you found from, you know, further from the papers that you guys evaluated. And the other question for me would probably be to ask you, what was the primary question or assignment that you gave to authors to address? What was the assignment, you know, as they address the question of sustainability? Some of the basic questions would probably be, how does interdisciplinary science versus transdisciplinary science or approach differ? Is it the one, the transdisciplinary science or approach, the one that includes stakeholders beyond scientists, for example, e.g. policymakers, you know, community members? Is that what differentiates transdisciplinarity over interdisciplinarity, for example? You know, there are various other concepts that I think ourselves are grappling with, including what is sustainability science itself. Is it a science that is mainly focused on the environment, you know, as a primary goal? Is there some ordering versus between environmental sustainability versus social sustainability versus economic sustainability? What were the tensions and challenges that you found, you know, on these concepts, you know, as you were reviewing the papers? Were there tensions between what scientists view their priorities to be in the global north versus the global south, for example? In any case, I don't want you to respond to these questions now. They probably could just prompt us in the audience for our discussion time. I want to give Dr. Blessing Charuka a chance to present to us his formal response to your review. And Dr. Blessing is a postdoctoral research fellow with the Leadership Center of the Future Earth Africa Hub in the ISER at Rhodes. He holds a PhD in integrated coastal zone management, and he has a rich background in maritime affairs, ocean and coastal governance. He also is a fellow with the Future Earth Coastals Global Research Network and the Climate and Development Knowledge Network. His research focuses on climate change impacts on coasts, coastal adaptation strategies, coastal sustainability, environmental and socio-economic impacts. So over to you, Dr. Blessing Charuka, and yeah, let's hear what your formal response is to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cyril Mbata, for the introduction. And before I begin, I would like to thank Dr. Faten Attig-Bahar for a presentation, which is so insightful. I am going to proceed to give a commentary and reflect on the presentation by Dr. Faten on this review for charting the course for the next decade of sustainability research and innovation. So as a coastal researcher, I want to first of all reflect upon the abstract of the paper that was presented today by Dr. Faten, where authors herein mention unprecedented impacts require unprecedented actions. So as we all understand now, we are in the Anthropocene where we are having a lot of severe and frequent disasters happening, mostly due to climate change, but also induced by human impacts. Just to go a little bit for those who might be wondering, most of the climate impacts or climate change impacts coming from human impacts due, for example, to industrial production, excessive emissions from industries, which lead to greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere and also radioactive forcing beyond safe limits, which then cause to global warming, and then we have the climate-induced impacts, for example, sea level rise, excessive heat. Nowadays, we are seeing a lot of heat waves. I'm not going to go into detail because I'll leave that to the audience. Land systems change was mentioned also, where we are seeing a lot of human activity going beyond margins, leading to land degradation. We're having also overpopulation, which is on the side of the human impacts. Overpopulation leading to urbanization, especially in my area of coastal research, where we have at least 44% of the global population nowadays living in coastal cities. So the impacts are massive in that regard. Also, as I mentioned, due to accumulation of greenhouse gases, that has effect on degradation of both terrestrial and marine ecosystems. For example, ocean acidification is a very negative impact both to living and non-living organisms, terrestrial and also marine. And that is also cascading impacts on the changes in biodiversity. We have seen on the side of human impacts, overfishing, illegal and unregulated fishing, and also other impacts like trawling. We have seen, deep sea bed mining. Those are some of the human-induced activities in the Anthropocene that is affecting both marine and terrestrial environments. This also, as I've indicated earlier, biogeochemical flows leads to the disruption of nitrogen and phosphorus cycles, for example, that is usually from fertilizer and other chemical industries. So just to link that research to the broader research that is being done globally, and to deepen this discussion, I want to just link to one study that is by the Stockholm Resilience Center, focusing on planetary boundaries, which was here mentioned in this review. And this is visualization will show you that since 2009, we have, or rather in 2009, we had crossed 3 planetary boundaries. And by 2015, we had crossed 7 planetary boundaries. And in 2023, already we had 9 boundaries, and we had crossed 6 of them. And currently, in 2025, we have crossed 7 of the 9 planetary boundaries. Most of them are indicated in the paper. So just to reflect that, yes, indeed, the paper, I would agree that the research that they selected from among the 50 publications, because I see they selected 12 out of the 50, I would argue that it sufficiently captured this. I will not go into the scientific meanings, but you would see that all the themes are captured here in climate change, in novel entities, stratosphere ozone depletion, and atmospheric erosion. Aerosol loading are the only two remaining. But as we can see, ocean acidification is coming up, biological flows almost at extreme levels. Biosphere integrity, both genetic and functional, has also been affected. So I'm going to look slightly into the sustainability challenges that have been mentioned and zoom in a little bit so that we are all kind of on the same page. On the environmental challenges, like I've mentioned before, climate change and extreme events, rising seas or rising sea levels, and then ocean acidification, leading to ecological breakdown, overfishing, loss of biodiversity, etc., etc. Now, the social challenges that come with sustainability are poverty and inequality, overpopulation, urbanization. As I indicated that when we do have increases in population, usually that would lead to demand for urban facilities and infrastructure. Then we do have on the social side of sustainability as a challenge, conflict and instability, which has also been highlighted in the review. Then we have economic challenges, wherein globally there is a conflict to balance economic activities and environmental stewardship. That becomes a big sustainability challenge that needs to be. I think that is where Future Earth is trying to come in and find, novel methodologies, novel approaches to solve these challenges. We have economic challenges in terms of securing sufficient funds for sustainability challenges or sustainability initiatives and making the right investments. Sometimes you do have the funding, but then those funds can, if not managed sustainably, then we may have the wrong investments. So that becomes a sustainability challenge in itself. Then we do have global, governance challenges, lack of clear policies. Sometimes there's poor enforcement of regulations, conflicting priorities. In some jurisdictions, there are laws, but then those laws are not put into practice, or that is non-enforcement. Then comes regulatory capture. I'm not going to go deeper into all those. With justice, inclusion, the gender equity, gender mainstreaming comes in as we try to balance those. Then data and information governance, it also comes in as a challenge for sustainability. Then we do have implementation challenges, stakeholder buy-in to secure support with the relevant, stakeholders. As this has to be an integrated approach to resolving the crisis, but that does not mean that it's an easy process. Stakeholder engagement in itself, to engage government, civil societies, and indigenous groups becomes really like Dr. Faten mentioned. It is a complex process. Then, like I said, also inclusion and gender. Then overall, we do have a lot of cross-cutting among these challenges: climate change, biodiversity loss, depletion of natural resources, and poverty, among others. So just to zoom into the paper and try to reflect that, yes, indeed, these are the sustainability challenges which are there, and the paper really actually captured most of this in charting the way forward or the future for the future as an organization. I'm not going to spend much time here on zooming on the Future Earth Global Research Network ecosystem. Since 2012, when the Future Earth was formed at the Rio Plus 20, it has grown, into a very big organization and it's very influential. And in their research, they indicate that these research, these activities by Future Earth will dictate the future of not only research, but funding, So it's research plus where would be the funding channeled. Yeah, just to zoom in on the complexity of it. It looks complex, but it shows how Future Earth is trying to address each and every facet of the global environmental challenges we are facing. For those who don't know what is a CAN, it's a knowledge action network, which is then I try to address some of these challenges, and this is usually done through these global research networks or the GRNs. So in agreeing that Future Earth really has the capacity, and most of these GRNs are actually doing a lot of research and coming up with a lot of initiatives to address these challenges. And I think Dr. Faten has really indicated on this and highlighted how these GRNs contribute to Future Earth global research. So I'm not going to go deeper. I'm going to look into the next to really zoom and narrow in on how the paper outlined the future vision for advancing sustainability science globally through interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research. I think that is going to answer one of the questions that Prof. Cyril was asking about what really is transdisciplinary research, which is really a complex question, because I think they in their review of the sustainability research articles, they indicated that transdisciplinarity is not easy. It's a very complex approach, and in the review they indicated that in some instances you would find that people are trying to do a TD, which is transmission research, but they are exceptions, there are gaps, there are challenges in terms of methodology on how to do a disciplinary research. And the four themes which I identified, which has been explained very well by Dr. Faten, the evolutionary and ecological process, which really seeks to understand the rapid evolutionary responses to environmental change and their relevance to the sustainability challenges we have, for example, climate change adaptation, biodiversity loss, among others. Then the governance and policy, which is one of the identified key themes or which emerged out of the analysis, trying to kind of move away from climate science to climate action, like improving on the implementation of or the traditional implementation of the SDGs to multi-level governance, which is inclusive of all stakeholders, from the government, civil society, and then the communities through to the individual level. On the land use and climate change, which Dr. Faten has commented very well. I'll just add that linking land-based mitigation and adaptation strategies through local social ecological benefits Previously, we used to have, a top-down structure of implementation of adaptation measures, which was really ignorant or non-inclusive of the local communities. So this is one of the gaps that Future Earth, I think, is trying to resolve, to move towards human-centered, community-centered adaptation and finding solutions to accessibility, including, as Dr. Faten said, integration of traditional knowledge, which, in my thinking, mostly, TEK or indigenous knowledge is usually tokenized. As it is tokenized, then there's knowledge loss, or rather heritage loss through tokenization, because once we have new forms of knowledge coming in, and then eventually over time, we tend to lose, local heritage. But I think Future is coming to say, oh, let's work with the local levels. Let's see how they used to adapt. Because I remember back in 2021, during the first SRI, we used to have those questions like sustainability for whom? Why are we worried about sustainability if we are ignoring the local levels? So that's why this becomes very important. And one of the influential Future Earth initiatives, I think, is the pathways, which was also mentioned in this, where they are really trying to come with a lot of initiatives and innovations to pathways to addressing sustainability challenges. Then, yes, he mentioned the interdisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity of research, addressing institutional barriers, and then even, previously we used to have a lot of silos, but then they mentioned fostering epistemic humility, which goes back to addressing the challenge of, indigenous knowledge systems. How do we, integrate these knowledge systems? How do we liberate traditional knowledge or indigenous knowledge systems so that we don't actually use them as integrative, but rather allow them also to review themselves as an adaptation, as a form of knowledge for adaptation and for climate science. Because we already know that in many places globally, especially in coastal areas where I do research, people do have a heritage of how do they adapt. Even if you go to desert areas, they do have a heritage of adaptation. So that knowledge should not be merely tokenized, but rather be, reviewed and be allowed to be independent and also to thrive alongside Western knowledge systems. Then contribution. I want to say that in terms of Future Earth itself as an organization, this research defines broadly the research priorities for the next decade of sustainability science, highlighting Future Earth's global research networks as enablers for achieving, transdisciplinary research and collaboration among organizations and institutions, and then providing a conceptual, methodological, and also governance innovations that are essential to support these transitions, mostly through the global research networks as been presented by Dr. Faten, which I agree with, which I know a lot of these have been, coming up with a lot of tailored research to address, particular areas of environmental government and social systems, among others. Then there's emphasis on bridging natural and social science with policy and community engagement, which Dr. Fatness is delved into. And lastly, the call for the core design, equitable and action-oriented approaches, sustainability challenges, particularly in the Anthropocene, which I think is also a valid call, which is in agreement with the current in the ocean, in the UN decade, where we are saying leave no one behind. So I don't want to take a lot of time. I'll stop here and leave the floor back to you, Prof, and the audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Blessing, for your perspective on the presentation by Dr. Faten. I just want to say we've put some of our reflective questions, online. But what I think I'm finding between you and Dr. Faten's presentations, there seems to me from both of you, there's a very heavy bias towards environmental science, especially, I think, an advocacy for the future Earth perspective as a community. And so I hope that to balance things out a little bit, because you are both coming from maybe natural sciences, we can have more reflections from non-natural scientists, people, whether it's from academia or in government or in communities, just different views. I saw somebody already posted about the inclusion of traditional knowledges or knowledge systems that we can start reflecting on, and maybe also reflecting on ourselves because, from all perspectives, there are always blind spots, as we try to improve our perspectives of science and of reality. So, without wasting more time, I'm going to open this up to more questions from people online as well as people in the room. Traditionally, we start off by people online. Normally, we start with 3 questions. If we can find 3, and then we address those, and then we move into the room. So, so if you want to ask a question online, please let me know. You can raise your hand. But I already see that there's one question from Barbara. Barbara, do you want to ask the question yourself, maybe? Otherwise, I can read the... Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead.
Well, yes, no, I was very interested in the discussion. I unfortunately was held up and joined a little late, which I'm very sorry for. But my research interest is in how traditional ecological knowledge, eco-wisdom, it has multiple benefits to society, but my area is looking at how it can contribute to building up and developing conservation efforts and strategies and so on, but how it's also beneficial to the community who hold that kind of wisdom, how it can be used by them in collaboration with researchers and others to benefit them in terms of deepening their bonds with the community in various ways. And my question really was, I'd love to hear a little bit more about some of those who presented and if they've done work with communities like this. I might have missed some of it. It was already presented on, and I apologize for that. But I would love to hear a little bit more from you in your knowledge on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other question online? You can just go ahead and speak. Otherwise, I will ask if there's any other question in the room. Online? Okay, I don't see a question online. So both to Dr. Faten, first maybe Dr. Faten as well as to then Dr. Blessing. You may want to try and address first the question from Barbara, and then maybe try and reflect some of the questions that I posted in the chat, if you can see them. Can you see them?
Mm-hmm.
All right, over to you, Faten, and then Dr. Blessing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. Mbata. And as you said, I feel like this discussion can take a very philosophical path, but also a very important one, because when reflecting about what is needed for science, it's not about to make a future or to another way how to kind of pour it for use, but more what kind of science do we need, and how do we frame science, and how do we have science to serve this decade of action. And I like the question coming from Barbara on the traditional ecological knowledge. And I believe that this is also a topic that, because I attend a lot of meetings with the communities, and I'm coming also from the gerents, from Future Earth, before joining the secretariat at some point. So there's always this kind of discussion on how do we link this local knowledge, how do we link this traditional knowledge, how do we just move from, from just having those discussion into having kind of actions, or having this implementation. What are the challenges when it comes to the implementation aspect? What are the issues when it comes to making things happen? And also, how can we collaborate and work together cross sectors, cross disciplines? How do we kind of build those platforms, of collaborations and communication? So there were a lot of reflections on that over the last years, and I remember that my first meeting as one of the reps, it was in 2019. It was on presenting on the concept of transdisciplinarity inside Future Earth. What does it mean, and how the groups and how the global research networks need to align with that and work with that. So for now, there is a lot of discussions and also a lot of actions on how to deepen this kind of collaboration and networks. So there are activities at the level of Global Future Earth. For example, we just hosted the Indigenous Summit 2 months ago. It was like 24 hours dialogue, bringing bringing different contribution from the different time zone, from the Americas, from the Africa, Europe, and from the Asia, in looking into solutions for that, and also presenting some of the suggestions and the cases where this kind of things worked, and also reflecting on what is needed to be done there. There are also some platforms where they try to allow this kind of interaction and reflections. So, for example, we host one of the events at the Africa level, which is the Sustainability and Innovation Congress, when we try to bring together, the different stakeholders, scientists, researchers, and open this platform for collaboration. There were some aspects just that was mentioned by Blessing on the funding. So we also try to, I try also not to be very braced for that, but I know that sustainability needs also funds, solution needs funds. So this also was one of the main goals on supporting the Belmont Forum Africa Regional Call, and the biodiversity was, and ecological solutions were part of that. And this also tried to create that platform, where the different sectors come together and the different stakeholders come together to bring solutions. So they are now a lot of support in terms of uh, opening up the collaboration, not only across academia and researcher, but also try to go beyond that and try to reach the policy makers, reach also the community and the social, the local knowledge. And this is now also something that it needs also a lot of attention, even from our side, when you're talking from this meeting on this platform, and also on what we need to articulate our actions in the future. So yeah. So yes. So this is for this question. Prof. Ambato, so you asked it. Sorry. You hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, there was also another question that was a bit, interesting for me, because I was involved in that process from the very beginning, on the tension and the challenges in running this kind of special issue, and also in presented like something that could talk on behalf of everyone. And I would say, like, we are still limited because we still cannot talk on behalf of everyone, because it's a very, very difficult task to bring everyone to the table and say, like, this is a common perspective that can satisfy all the needs and all the requests and everyone. But we tried at least to see, at least, from what we can do, as much as we can, from the different science and the different contribution we get from the community. you know, and definitely there are challenges because there is also the different level of development and the different level of understanding of sustainability science and the contribution to sustainability science, you know. So definitely when you do this kind of work, you see like the contribution, for example, coming from the global north are usually more than those coming from the global south. Um, it is a role of power, but also it's a role of different way of doing things. You know, for example, the question that links for Barbara that links to the local knowledge and traditional knowledge. You know, so in Africa we do have our ways, you know, to do things. We do have our ways to understand things. You know, and this is somehow different from what they are setting from the other side. But maybe what is needed is to find some alignment, you know, to find a platform that can respect all voices and bring all voices and also kind of reflect on the needs of all voices, you know. And I feel like we are trying to do we are doing our best. I also, when I talk about our African hub and also the activities we do, with what we do with the SRI, with what we do with the capacity development, with what we do with the science clusters, in a way that come in to bridge some of the gaps that they are existing at the level of the global. Um, but it's still, you know, more. I mean, like more efforts needs to be, you know, kind of dedicated to this task because there are still challenges, there are still tensions, but we try to do our best to close those tensions, you know. So yeah, back to you, Prof.
Okay, Blessing, any reflections on the questions asked? And then we can see if we've got more questions from the room.
Okay, I'll start by addressing the question on traditional ecological knowledge or eco wisdom on how it can best benefit conservation strategists or people who can collaborate with researchers, deepen community bonds, and learn about their that is a question in the chat. I'm reading from the chat. I'll speak from the perspective of the research that I'm also currently conducting on the epistemological hegemony of Western science on traditional ecological knowledge or indigenous knowledge systems, wherein we find that not only in Africa, but globally, in Canada, we do have the Nafoti people who also look into, you know, how people adapt to ice. And then we find that in Australia, they do have the same kind of knowledge systems on how the local indigenous communities how they survive. And the Maori people, I think, of New Zealand, they also have the same issues. But what I want to say is, yes, researchers have been working with local communities, but the major one that was indicated is historically there has been a lot of extraction of knowledge, and then tokenizing that or just adding it as an ingredient to support Western sciences, which is now, that narration is kind of changing, where people are going into the communities to work with the communities to define, you know, new forms of knowledge, which is the whole basis of transdisciplinary research. We are not going there with a discipline to say, okay, we agree that based on the communities, or rather our findings, the community knowledge supports our findings, which is kind of now extractive. But we are going there to kind of come with a new methodology, working with the communities to find a new approach to solve the local solutions, not merely, you know, just interviewing the local communities and then using that as support to support our natural science. And then, yes, So who can collaborate with researchers? They in TD, communities are also part of the research. They are not left out. So like you find in Future Earth, most of these TD research or these calls, they require that the communities come in as a stakeholder. So I think the extractivism of the abstraction of knowledge from the communities is what is being addressed here. And then, yeah, because it is a heritage. So most of these communities have survived by this knowledge. So we don't want an instance whereby we come with a knowledge system to impose on an already functional system. So yes, it is one way in which TD tries to avoid extraction, but to include the communities as part of the research process. And I see another question. The role of power across different spaces in English in different languages, North and South. Yeah, so I wanted to mention that in the review, it is explicitly acknowledged that the challenge of knowledge is stated where Future Earth promotes, and I read the equitable participation in the capacity building and the context-based knowledge or co-production. So for the Global South, this means research agendas should be shaped by local priorities. For example, in terms of protected areas, in terms of climate adaptation, the food water nexus, but while it is benefiting from the global collaboration from Future Earth, these methods are not merely dictating upon the local communities, but the communities are actually, part of the core design of the solutions. Just to address that, yes, the Global South has been one of the most affected in terms of this knowledge production, whereby we used to have a lot of products coming in already, and we are asked to buy in. But with TD, we are now coming in to include those communities to shape, how they live as part of the formation of knowledge. So still going back to methods where there's emphasis on essentially collaboration and learning from indigenous communities and practices alongside the formal science. So it's integration, not it's no longer disciplinary, because once it is disciplinary, then we are leaving out the communities. I hope I'm trying to go down and check. And then what is the difference between transdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach? I think I'll try to say that with interdisciplinary research, we are just combining two or more methods of research ways of doing research. Whereas with transdisciplinary research, we are only integrating all forms of knowledge, including natural, social, science, communities, traditional knowledge, to come out with a new form of knowledge. That is my way of understanding of TD. I think that is why it is complex to define TD, because we want all forms of knowledge to be on board. Whereas in TD, actually, we are integrating two or more knowledge systems in order to maybe address a societal challenge. I think I'll give an example. In my research, as a course of research, I think I do a lot of integration of social social science and also natural science, whereas the social science can also inform the natural science, or vice versa. With mixed methods approaches, you can have a lot of natural inquiry, scientific inquiry, which then informs a local survey to understand, local systems. I will leave to Dr. Faten maybe to add her views on this.
No, let me go back. I'll give the main speaker the last chance to talk at the end. Let's try and go back to the audience. This is their time now. If there's no more question from the audience, either in the house or online, I'm just going to give you 1 second. Going. So over to you, Dr. Bahar. You'll have the last chance, and then we'll close this session.
Thank you so much for the very insightful discussion. Actually, I was listening and also enjoying, the questions, the reflections coming from also my colleague Blessing, from you, Prof. Mbata, and from the participants who are asking those questions. I just wanted to give a comment on the TD versus multidisciplinary, because I think that I didn't touch to this point. So what makes TD different from the multidisciplinary is the integration aspect, and I think Dr. Blessing just mentioned that. And I know, for example, many of the communities, I do not want really to use the transdisciplinary per se. For in Future Earth, we used a lot because we are among the networks and organizations that were advocating, to support TD aspect, in knowledge generation, co-production, and co-design, in bringing the different stakeholders and actors together. That means natural scientists, social scientists, with link to policy, with community engagement. So that's why when we do have this kind of specifying, the different actors, you find, if we find that, very specific in terms of the discipline, the sector, the career stage, and the involvement. But I know, for example, many of the organization wants to be very specific, For example, they use the word integration, but they say, for example, integration of social scientists, integration of policy, integration of citizen science, and integration of this. So, for the goal, both are kind of serving, the same goal of bringing other communities to think together, to co-design, co-produce, because this is very important, because this is where this integration is come in terms of bringing the solutions. With Future Earth, we use a lot of the transdisciplinary, as I mentioned. We are one of the we are advocating a lot as a network on the TD approach, because we do have those communities I just mentioned in my first map, which is a community which is distributed worldwide, with different national and regional committee that can bring their own knowledge and their own contributions to that global secretariat and the global research networks and so on. So this is the way on how to bring all this aspect and all those, contribution from the different actors, active in the field of sustainability science, either it's from natural science, from social science, from academia, from NGO, from organization, from policy aspect, and so on. I think this is what I wanted to add to what Dr. Blessing mentioned about TD. And I'm handing over to you, Prof. Mbata. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, colleagues. If there are no more questions, I'm happy to close this session. But before then, I just want to just reflect with you on a few things regarding the ICR. Please be reminded that at the ICR, we conduct research not only on the environment, but also on international trade. In fact, I was at the BRICS summit earlier in the week. And there was a reflection there, by the way, on one of the concepts we've just discussed today, on what really is the global south. from the perspective of the Russians, by the way, they don't think of the global south, of us being part of the global south, but of being the global majority. So, it's a new way of thinking about ourselves, which is probably, according to data, more accurate, but it's got its own implications, of course. So maybe that characterization of the global south within BRICS, in any case, will start taking root. But we also do research in education and skills and other human development and economic development issues. We are always happy to collaborate in the above areas. We'll also post this recording for today on YouTube, and then we will send you the link, and then we'll monitor it for comments, and we will respond. Please follow the ISER on Rhodes ISER on YouTube, Rhodes ISER on Facebook, or Twitter, now X, and you can contact Vuyokazi at this email address. Am I sharing my screen? This is you can contact Vuyokazi at this email address for any suggestions, any comments, questions about the ISER or the Leadership Center at Rhodes and at UP. Other than that, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We look forward for hosting you in our next seminar. And with those words, please have a great day further. Thank you.